Alright, I'm going to go real quick over how to create a new project and import your video. So right here I've got a folder on my desktop. This would be basically where I have saved all of my video clips onto the computer. So if I go ahead and open that, so I've got a .mov video file, a .mp4 video file. Both are usually pretty easy to find and see and watch, even on older Macs, even probably older Windows too. Inside day 1 and day 2 are private folders. What those are from cameras that record in the AV-CHD file structure, which on older computers like the one that this is on can be a little tricky. You can't even really watch it without putting it into a more sophisticated video player or into Premiere. If I try to use QuickTime, it won't even read it. So the only thing I want to point out right now is if you do shoot multiple days, you do need to copy that entire private folder that comes off of the SD card. The reason I put it in 2 days, which would be of course if you shot for 2 different days, is if you try to put it in the main folder or together. So I took day 1, I already took day 2 and put it in here. If I try to take day 1 and put it there, it's going to want to replace it and delete everything else. So if you use a camera with AV-CHD for more than 1 day, you're going to want to create multiple folders to put each of the private folders into. So day 1 private folder, day 2 private folder. All of the .mov, .mp4s can pretty much all just go into this main folder. So again, here's all of our video clips from the camera, and we're ready to make a new project. So Premiere pops open with this. Making a new project. You got a few different things you can do here, but for our purposes, just make sure you've got a name for what this project is going to be called. So I'm just going to type importing video, and for our purposes, we save it inside the same folder where all the clips are at. So if I go to desktop, I find importing video, and that's where I'm going to put it. So basically, it says importing video here and importing video here. So it's basically the same thing. Hit OK. This would be where we set up our sequence. So if we had 1920 by 1080, that's what we would use. If we had 24 frames per second, that's what we would set up. Rather than set it up in this window, we usually just hit OK and keep moving. Alright, once Premiere actually opens, you've got your timeline, you got your program monitor, you got your source monitor, you got your project panel, and down here you got media browser, effects, and some other tabs that could be useful later on. For the purposes of this video, really just a couple quick steps. So this sequence may or may not have the proper settings. 1920, 1080, 30, yours might be 720 by 480. Whatever it might be, well, let's just take this, click it, and drag it to the trash can. It's always easier if you're going to try to move something is to click the little icon. So rather than click the name, because then it's going to want to rename it, if you click this icon and just drag it to the trash, it's gone, your timeline is gone too, and we're ready to import. You can go to File Import, or if there's plenty empty space right here in your project panel, just go ahead and right click and hit Import there. So I'm going to importing video. I need that .mov, I need the MP4, so let's just do one at a time. So here comes the MOV file. Let's import again. Here is the other video file, and then we need to get the AV-CHD stuff. So if I click day 1 on a Mac, if I hold down Shift and click day 2, it highlights both of them, and I can import both. It's probably going to come up with this error. Inside those day 1 and day 2 folders are a bunch of other files that Premiere cannot understand, and we actually don't really need it to understand it. So just hit OK, and you should be able to open up with these triangles, day 1 and day 2, and now you have whatever video file it is that you recorded in there. So day 1, day 2 happens just to be the same video, but you've got all your video clips into your project panel and you're ready to go. From there, pick any one of your video files. Once you have one of them highlighted, glance up at your information here Make sure it has the proper settings that you want to use. Does it have 1920 by 1080? If it does, great. Does it have 30 frames per second? And that's what you want to use, then you're good to go. If you wanted to use something else, then that's not going to work for us. But for this purpose, let's just say it works. 1920, 1080, 30 frames per second. So all I got to do is right click on that and then go ahead and click on New Sequence from Clip. You now have a timeline back. You now have a project right here. So this project icon right here is your timeline. Your timeline is your program monitor. They're all the same thing. So if for some reason your project panel, if I accidentally drug that to the trash, I would essentially lose everything I've created. So never do that. I should be able to hit Command Z to bring it back. It's still not down here, so I need to double click on that. From here on, you start dragging your clips down your timeline, which would be another video for this class, but once you've got everything imported, once you've got a timeline back, you're pretty much ready to start building your story. Thank you.